Hello and welcome to my lounge, me and the dog, and I'm here to tell you about my adventures that I've just had in Europe. An unexpected adventure. I did my first Camino. It was sensational but also incredibly difficult. I was away for a month. The actual Camino was about 11 days worth, from Porto in Portugal to Santiago, little Rome. The dog was well looked after by somebody who house sat my house, my plants and my dog. She's gotten over it, sort of, really. But anyway, I'm here to tell you about 5 things that I learned about doing the Camino. Firstly, anybody can do it. It just depends on how you do it. Now, I will go into some issues that I had, mostly feet and blisters. Believe me, my certificate was well earned. Blood, sweat, tears and blisters, let me tell you. But the reality is that anybody can do it. Partner and I, saw people from about the age of 12 all the way up to well in their 80s doing this Camino. It just depends on how you do it. We were pack carriers, so we carried everything. And that's a whole interesting experience too, carrying your whole life with you when you're traveling. But there were other people who were doing what we called day packing, so that they would go from one location to the other, just carrying their day pack, much lighter of course than our everything, and would make their way to the next place. It seemed much lighter and easier in one sense, but anyway, we did it the hard way, or the traditional way, and carried everything. It was about 10 kilos all up, or about 22 pounds, and that includes what I was wearing, my shoes, the walking poles, the bum bag, the pack, everything. Gosh, I'm very glad not to be carrying a pack every day. That's what I have to say about that. But anyway, anybody can do it. It just depends on how you choose to do it, and the distance between locations, from point A to point B, and how long you want to take and how much money you want to spend. But anyway, it's doable for anybody. Let me tell you, I met a woman who had Parkinson's, and if she can do it, anybody can do it. I turned 59 on the trip, and believe me, if I can do it, so can you. The other thing I'd like to say is that the Camino was a whole lot harder than I expected. To be honest, I don't really know what I had expected. You watch YouTube videos, heck, you're watching one now, about doing the Camino, or a Camino, but I don't think I was really quite prepared for the actual physicality of it. Now look, I go to the gym. I know it's hard to tell, but hey, I go to the gym, and aerobically I'm quite fit. I did do a whole lot of strength training too, and to be honest, I didn't find the pack too onerous to carry. My feet, on the other hand, that was a completely different issue, and I will be doing a whole video just on feet and blisters, if you're interested. But anyway, because I have a lot to say about those. But anyway, in terms of how hard it was, we were very fortunate that we started our Camino at the end of May, kind of leading up to peak Camino season. Right now in Europe, they've been having a heat wave, and I would not like to be walking in more heat than what we did. Most days, we were very fortunate. Early mornings was probably about 12 to 15 degrees, and would probably go up to about 19 to 23 degrees. Perfect walking weather. We did have one day, however, that was 26 or 27. That was hard work. It really was. It was amazing. Those few degrees difference really made a difference. And to be honest, I would be cautious doing a Camino right now while there is a heat wave. certainly if you were going to do it, you would have to start very, very, very early in the morning, like practically in the dark, I think, to be able to do the Ks without being in the heat. Having said that, heat aside, another thing that I found incredibly difficult, other than my feet, was the fact, difficult, but something that I wasn't really kind of expecting, was the different terrain. I naively, and I really mean naively, thought that because pilgrims have been doing these particular walks for a very long time, that the paths would be a lot more established than what they are. No, they are not. Be warned, people. You will go from asphalt to concrete to cobblestones, which incidentally are terrible to walk on. You will go from stones laid in Roman times to full-on dirt and gravel, and you will traverse tiny little paths and huge roads. You will cross major highways. It's amazing, the terrain. I don't know what I was expecting, but I was expecting it to be a little bit more consistent and a little less, yeah, that's all I can say. It was amazing, the different terrain. The good thing about it was that none of those particular things like cobblestones or dirt or whatever lasted for too long. There was always like a new chapter or a new page every single day. But it did make for very interesting walking, and I wasn't really prepared for that. One thing that I really liked about the Camino was, one of many things actually, was the fact that you never really knew what to expect. You could really say, expect the unexpected. You could go from all these different terrains, and then all of a sudden you'd be in something that was completely different. I remember we officially started doing the coastal route from Porto, following the coast, and we went there for a few towns, and then all of a sudden we found ourselves not along the coast, but more doing the central way. And that was amazing. Actually, that was my first real, oh my goodness me, look at the terrain, because I had been walking on a boardwalk, beautiful countryside, beautiful terrain, either and right by the coast. And then all of a sudden we were in the bush, which reminded me very much of an Australian bush, which I will talk to another time. And then going through these minute little paths and over boulders and all sorts of things. I was not expecting that. We crossed, like a bit of a dam wall, and then we would go up and over, and all of a sudden my flat and very easy walk in terms of not going uphill and down, because really what goes up must go down, and vice versa. All of a sudden we were in very hilly terrain, and then you turned around and then there was this even bigger hill, and that was very unexpected. And then you went further along, and then all of a sudden there was this amazing church or cathedral, and it had a toilet, excellent, more about that another time, and a place where you could buy a very cheap and very welcome lunch. And it was so lovely, and it was so well organized. I was feeling on top of the world, literally at the top of a hill. And then we walked following the very comforting little yellow arrows, or the shell that is the symbol for the Camino. And then blow me down, we were in cross country, we were in bushwalk, we were in mud. It was unbelievable and totally unexpected, because literally 2 minutes we were sitting in this fabulous, well-manicured churchyard. Anyway, that's the thing about the Camino. You never really know what you're going to expect. And I think it's a really good, little sliver of life. It's really what life is. And I really appreciated that. I really enjoyed that. Sometimes the surprises did take me by surprise. But anyway, it was great. The fourth thing that I learned or realized about doing this Portuguese Camino was that I really got to see the countryside. You know, when you travel in your day-to-day life, you're going from A to B, you're getting there as quickly as possible. You are not dilly-dallying, you are not stopping to smell the roses or look at anything. You're getting from A to B as quickly as possible. You're either in the car, you're on the bus, you're on the train, you know, you're getting to wherever, and you don't really get to see people's backyards. You don't really get to wander down tiny little streets or see people's vegetable gardens or goats in the paddock or anything like that, because you're too busy. You're in the car or the train or whatever, getting to the shops or to work or to, you know, the restaurant or whatever, but you're not really taking the time to stop and smell the roses or, you know, peer over people's backyards or appreciate their fabulous gardens or anything like that. You really got to see the real countryside. I will tell you that doing a Camino is not straightforward. Believe me when I tell you that you will wend and wind your way absolutely. If there was a straight way, they're not taking it. Let's put it that way. And when I say they, because you're following these either painted arrows in yellow, or you're following a very lovely little sign, and I'll show you, that's what it looks like. You're following the shell, right? And it's not taking you in a straight way in any way, shape or form. You are going to be, if there is a high point in this tiny little village, you will be going there. If there is a cathedral, usually on the high point, you will be going there. If there's something of interest, if there's a river or a stream or something, or just to avoid a main road, you will be going in that way. You will really get to see the countryside and places that you would never see otherwise when you're going from A to B in your car, the train or the bus or however you're getting anywhere. It was great. The final thing, my fifth and final thing for today's video is that I've learned that it's not about the destination, it is about the journey, which is kind of what I said before. But, you know, so often in our modern life, we really are just getting from A to B. We're really very goal oriented. We're not really enjoying the journey. And look, sometimes, you know, we're too focused on the destination or the goal rather than the journey, is what I'm trying to say. And I'm very much one of those people. You know, I'm not necessarily enjoying my life or doing my things now because I want to go over to there or I want to accomplish that. I'm not necessarily appreciating the process or the journey of getting to the goal or the destination. When I was doing the Camino, I was very aware of that, possibly because of all the wending and the winding and the, you know, places that I mentioned before that, you know, you wouldn't really necessarily get to see. But yes, it was very good actually to see and to appreciate the fact that I am, well, to realize that I'm very much goal oriented and I need to maybe more journey oriented. That was a good thing to learn, actually. It was a good thing to be aware of. Anyway, thank you very much for joining me. Two things, Bon Camino, and also just keep walking.